much they're about. Happy New Year.
We bless the Lord for you. First time at Top FM?
Not quite. I think I've been here sometimes back on different sessions. Yes, so I am a frequent visitor, but at least it's my first time on this program.
Okay.
Yes, so I'm a first timer.
I can say karibu nyumbani.
Thank you.
Okay. So for somebody who's hearing about Pastor Benson Wendo for the first time, maybe you can introduce yourself to the listeners. So who you are, what do you do? Introduce us to your family.
My name is Wendo Benson, born again, married to Christine. Between us are 2 children. The youngest is about 2 months now. Yes, we say that is the acting last born on a 2 years contract renewable. Yes.
2 years contract renewable.
Yes, I serve in Sitam Valley Road as a pastor, and primarily in youth ministry, and also supporting other ministries within.
Amen.
Yes.
One thing about you, Pastor Wendo, together with your great wife Christine. Hi, Christine. That I noticed, you've named your children beautiful names. Beautiful names. Ebu, tell us about them. And I wanted to ask, what informed, the names you gave to your 2 great boys?
Yes, I think of the many names, I'll pick 2.
Tell me.
Our firstborn is called Kibali. His full name is Sami Benaya Kibali Ratego.
How will we know? What do you say?
He's a Kibali because in him we see favor. We see favor, and really our conviction in our hearts on his conception, we felt like God is giving us some favor. Yes. And indeed, some favor, and they are still coming through, but some favor came forth with him. So he's really a favored to us. He's a favored. It reminds us of the favor of God over our life and in his life. And he's closely followed by our little baby called Busara. Busara is a man of wisdom. Wow. He's a man of wisdom, and he also reminds us of the Solomon's prayer, of the many things that would ask for. He asked for God's wisdom to lead the children of Israel. So really, this little boy reminds us that after we know Christ, we need his wisdom to do everything, to serve him and to live for him. Yes, so they're constant reminders that is the favor of the Lord and the wisdom of the Lord is upon his people.
Amen.
Amen.
The favor of the Lord and the wisdom of the Lord, and something that every parent can pick in regards to how you name your children.
Exactly.
Which is important.
Amen.
Amen. I'm hosting Pastor Benson Wendo on Profile today, a story of God's favor. And as we proceed on, you can be part of our discussion today on the SMS line 20933, and you can catch us live on Facebook Live. That is at Hop FM Live on Facebook, and just go through, as we proceed with the program. So how was it growing up, Pastor Wendo?
Well, I actually was born and bred for better part of my life. Was born and bred in some little village somewhere that is in South Nyanza, and I began schooling there, and I schooled there way up to class 8. Yeah. Up to class 8 in some 2 local schools, a typical village school. And I had no idea that one day, probably I'll be in a different platform or setting away from that little village, because that is all that I knew then. Yes. And being brought up in a relatively larger family, I think we are the last born in a family of 10.
You?
Yes.
Okay. How was it being a last born in such a big family of 10?
I think the essence or the realization of what a last born may mean came to me when I had left the village, because the difference was the same. Right in the village there. because everybody, as you grow up, you have your portion and your share of duties to do.
Yes.
Regardless whether you're the first or the last born, there's always something for you. There's a piece of land for you to till. There's some expectation that are over you. So really, it didn't mean much, or I didn't even understand anything, but I just knew that I have elder brothers, elder sisters.
Yes.
And all of them are taking up their own duties. And I have my share in the family. I'm also taking my little responsibilities, because that is really how we grew up.
Yes.
With some assigned duties and responsibilities from a very young age, that whatever everybody's doing, you have to partake of it. So really, I think from growing up then, I would say that somehow the design of life really put me in some path of growing as like a little adult.
You had no option, like this is the last born, you have to bembeleza a bit, nothing like that.
There was
for
no
you.
space for that, and there was no time for that.
Okay, so was growing up, you grew up in a Christian home, or how was it?
I grew up in a Christian home. My dad and my mom were believers, and growing up in that particular family, well, I would say today that I grew up a religious child. And I wouldn't exactly say that I grew up a Christian. But I also appreciate the role really in the Christian faith, the role that the faith of my parents played in. Because really growing up, it was a typical village setting, but I remember every now and then something keen that I still remember to date from my parents were the evening devotion. We used to call them parliaments. They were parliaments because you would gather together after supper.
The 10 of you, now 12.
Yes, now 12. That's a whole football team with
you.
a sub. So we will meet up together, and my dad will also provide a few lectures, depending with what was happening during the day, who misbehaved.
Yes.
He would, of course, lecture you as a team all together. Then finally zero into the victim. Then after that, we'll have a time of singing and a time of prayer. And I think one key thing that I still remember, as much as I didn't get it then, I get it now. But every time my dad would lead us in a time of prayer and a time of, he had two common songs that he would sing, and he sang them through his life.
Tell me.
It was he used to sing them in mother tongue, but I remember them is it was just praising the Lord in the morning, praising the Lord in the afternoon, and praising the Lord in the evening.
I know that one.
And also speaking of the blood of Jesus. Those are the two songs that he led us as a family through every night. And after he had sung his little songs, he would release everybody to their little corner, go talk to your God in our little sitting room. And after that, he'll still call that meeting to order. And my mom would pray. Then we'll also pray over us by need and by name, and release us to go to bed and just have some rest for the night. Then we'll also hear him very early in the morning, being the first one to wake up with these two songs.
Wow.
And just singing them and just making prayers and intercession over us. And that didn't make any sense to me. Probably maybe I was a child, or I was just ignorant. But as I grew up, I came to realize that there was somebody that was interceding for me, even in my lost nature at some particular point.
Okay.
Yes.
You know, something I've picked that you've said, Pastor Wendo, is you just grew up as a religious child, and you know your parents were so keen in bringing you up in the ways of the Lord. What's the worst thing that you did, you know, growing up just as a religious child, not a born-again Christian? Let me put you up on the spot there.
Well, I think by God's grace, the discipline in the village will not allow you to misbehave much. But at some point, I think when I was in class 8 in one of the schools there, me and my brother, who I really follow, then we found ourselves in some issues. We actually bought some village alcohol, and took a bit of it, and it became a whole village issue. The village chief, the police were involved, and all that. Or of course, you can know how a whole village can discipline one person. We saw the wrath of a village.
Yes.
So that was one of those instances that really, and I think to some levels also, it also changed my life. Though it didn't transform me quite a bit until much later on, but it really changed my perspectives of life, and how really to value some little things.
Okay. So you grew up, now you're of age, you've cleared high school, you know, maybe you're trusting God for campus or college. How was that transition for you?
I think even before I got to high school,
Yes.
There was one major transition from the village to the city.
That is after primary school.
That is
high school.
after primary school.
Okay.
In really again using the standards of my village, we performed well in our KCP.
Yeah. According to the standards of
Yes,
the
the
village.
standards, because I remember that at least I led that particular school. Yes, back then, and but I was not very happy with my grades.
Why?
I felt that I could do more. Because I remember that through really my family had a lot of hope in me.
Yes.
I also had a lot of hope in myself, but I felt that I could do more. I felt that I underperformed, and probably in that particular state, when I was thinking about it and all that, my brother had been blessed by really some little job in the city, so he called me over that, would you reconsider retaking this particular stage? And because I thought about it and say, okay, I can pick up the challenge. So I came and did class 8 again, a second time.
What was your target for class 8?
I was looking at then we because we're sitting, our exams were out of 500.
Yes.
So I was looking at a minimum of 400.
Why?
I was looking at a minimum of 400, and I don't even know why I needed 400.
I wonder. Looking back,
I don't know why I was looking really for that. But when I came over, it was also a process. It was also a process, and getting into literally a new culture,
yes,
a new system. And I also got myself into a new quote unquote religion.
From the village, where you left what your parents taught you.
I left what my parents taught me. In a way, I became a mainstream. Actually, then in the village, we used to go to a Pentecostal church.
Yes.
Now, when I came over here, and when I was in class 8, I met a few friends of mine, and I think we went to the church that they used to go to. And I then developed even a vision of becoming a father, a priest. Yes, and I was there for some years.
Yes.
Yes, I was there for some years. And now when we transited to high school, at some point, I also joined the leadership of then it was the YCS. We called it Young Catholic Society. And we were just growing in that fellowship in our own ways. But by this time, I had again found myself in some little trouble.
Let me take you back before you tell us about the trouble, Pastor Wendo. Yes. So, your brother calls you to the city, you come, you have a target, 400.
I have a target
of 400. Despite being the number one in the village.
Despite being the number one in the village.
So, did you get the 400 you wanted?
I didn't get the 400.
Okay. But you managed to go to high school.
I managed to go to high school. At least I got closer to 400. But I also managed to go to high school. And I think the high school experience also was challenging. I think also by the time I was going to high school, I went there also with a different mentality. I think I had not really, gotten my 400, but I was comfortable again, a little comfortable with whatever I had.
Yes.
Yes, because we were the pioneer classes again of this particular new school, and there was a lot of hope in us. And so I was a bit comfortable with whatever I had, but I didn't go to the school because I wanted a different school, so I didn't get it. So by the time I was reporting to this particular school, I was a 50-50 person, and not wholeheartedly reporting and all that, and the challenges of reporting to Form 1, because all my family members, they were just beginning to put themselves together. So the resources were limited and spread across a large demand
of other 9.
Everybody is looking up to the same people. So really, I even the bare minimals that I needed to join Form 1 were not there. So it was just picking this and this and this, that, and going to negotiate with the admitting teachers so that at least they can have me around so that I can settle. I didn't understand it quite a bit, that the resources were stretched. I had a little complaint and a cry in my heart that something should have been done better so that I look like other students.
Okay.
Yes.
So because of that, it causes you to engage in things and you get yourself in trouble.
I think it got me into trouble, because the moment I got to Form 1, after settling in school, I would literally count days I wanted to, when is midterm? I count days I wanted to go back home every now and then. I just have a feeling of how life is back away from school. I wasn't never really settled. But in the process also, I got comfort in other companies. And I remember I actually began to do drugs.
In school?
In school.
Where do you get drugs in school?
As you settle in school, you also shown ways. Now, of course, there are people that will bring them in and they'll sell them to us. But they were a bit expensive. So you become a bit creative and begin going for them wherever they bring them from. So that meant that would actually get out of school, sneak out and just go and bring them. And because you grow deeper into it, you begin to demand more. So we found myself in the process, just also even bringing others on board so that I can also sell a bit to them and get more money and go bring more. So it became like a business. It became like a business, and I was also getting deeper and deeper into it.
At this point, I'm assuming you'll go for midterm, you'll go for half term, and then you'll close school. You need to go home.
Yes.
Your brother, did sense anything? There is something a change in you?
Well, I suspect that they suspected, but they didn't have evidence.
The Form 34.
Form 34 was missing. I really suspect that it was such a suspicion, and but they didn't. They thought that it could be, it could not be, and all that, and nobody was keen enough really to take their time and find out what is happening in my life. Because now at least I am in the boarding school. I'm just home in doing a few days. Midterm is just a week. When we close school, I am quick to go to the village, and so there is no keenness on what is really happening in my life, and so they hardly pick it, and I was careful enough to hide it.
Okay.
Yes.
So you go through all this up to 4th form, or something transpired in the middle?
Something somehow happened when I was in Form 2.
Tell me about it.
And this is where every change came. I think really this is after, of course, I got into trouble with the school as well in the process, and I was suspended from school for quite a while, and of course brought back after some times. And when I came back to school, of course, with a heart to really reform, and but it was not just happening. So particularly remember this one particular day when I came back to school, like after suspension, I had some bitterness within me. And I came saying that, well, this time round, because I'm going to do something and probably bring down the whole school all by myself.
Where was the bitterness coming from for you to think that this school needs to come down?
I had been suspended from school. I had been suspended from school for, of course, engaging in a school strike. And of course, it was true that we engaged in it. But I had to justify my bad actions. So when he came back, I didn't mind being expelled again. And so I came back and saying that, well, it is one chance, and this one chance, I'll do it and do it well. And everything has to come down. So that is the attitude that I came back with in school after this suspension. But it did not materialize, because on the planned day when I planned to do whatever I could do, and coincidentally the Christian Union had also organized some rally. So it coincided with their weekend challenge, and this was a Saturday. And by now then, of course, I had nothing to do with Christian Union. My other friends and my other place of fellowship, they were accommodating me. In fact, I had some little leadership position.
Yeah.
Yes,
So you're just religious, but you know deep down your
I am
heart.
religious, but I know I have nothing to do with this thing. So, but coincidentally, that particular night I remember so well. And for you to do some things, you need to be high. So we actually sneaked with a number of boys. We sneaked out of school, then went back. I went outside there, dragged ourselves, and even carried more, and came to school. And the vision that particular night was really to bring everything down. Well, we, as usual, we just went for the evening roll call. We were confirmed that we were all present in school. I was present and drunk. We are all confirmed in. After being confirmed in, and now it was time to execute the mission. Our little group, we were allowed to have entertainment that day. So we were not going for the CU rally because it is optional. It is for the Christian Union. But somehow I found myself going by the Christian Union meeting. I just walked in there before they begin. Some music was playing and all that. So I got in there. When I went into that Christian Union meeting, just moments later, of course, we're just enjoying the music. Just
You
like
are drunk.
I am drunk. So I'm drunk and dancing out of drunkenness. So I went in there, and for some reasons, they began the meeting officially. And one of our principal now, my very good friend, came in. He was a believer, and he is still a believer. Then he came into the hall and sat by the exit. So somehow I was stuck with these people.
Yes.
And I cannot leave, I cannot move. Because if I pass by him, I am not in good shape. I can't really meet him. So I contained myself in this hall until everything was done. And of course, the preacher was doing his bit, and when he made an altar call, and there was some sensation that as he was making his altar call and calling a call for salvation, suddenly I felt like everybody is responding to this. Everybody is raising up their hands in the air. And the obvious thing was to do the same. I also raised up my hand. And he quickly invited us, those that are raising up their hands, to the altar. Again, there was that feeling that everybody's in it and everybody's walking towards the altar. So I also walked to the altar. And of course, he prayed over me, because after the prayers, when I opened my eyes, I actually realized that I was all alone. I was
So it was internal prompting, you're feeling everybody's in
I'm
it.
feeling that everybody's doing it.
But in reality, you're alone.
In reality, I was alone. So I went to the altar staggering to some level. But at the end of it all, even when I was prayed over and when I received Christ as my Savior, amazingly, I was sober.
Wow.
So that night, I remember it well, the 21st of May. It was Saturday, 10 o'clock at night. I remember it so well. The year 2005. By this now, I was in Form 3. Yes. We're just preparing to begin thinking about our indexing and our KCSE, those particular things. But this really transformed my life.
So when you woke up the next day in the morning, because you know you're doing this, you're drunk.
Yes.
You're thinking everybody is in it, but in reality, you're alone. So you sleep over it, you wake up the next day. It's a Sunday morning.
It's a Sunday morning.
Did you recall what you did? How was it on that morning?
I recalled so well every bit and everything that was happening. Because even at the altar, I mean, when after responding to that call, I could feel and I could know, because I could see even the reactions of the fellow students and the teachers that were in. I saw them in a way celebrating. I saw my principal happily celebrating, and I remember that. Then I realized that something must have happened. But I began to question myself. Why are these people so happy that this is happening? Then it dawned on me that actually was a trouble to the whole institution. But coming to Sunday morning, I the Christian Union leadership, the local Christian Union leadership in schools, and of course we had every department in place, discipleship and all that. But the person in charge of discipleship, my great friend again, his name was Moses then, and he's still that. He didn't know what to do with me, because he was not very sure whether I am making a decision. So he didn't know really how to bring me on board and begin to walk with me together with the other new believers. So somehow God orchestrated, and the whole and the chairperson of the Christian Union and a few other leaders, I think they instantly picked the burden on themselves. Because that night I was surrounded by so many people. Really, the leadership of the Christian Union, they made sure that I go to bed on time, and they made sure that I am in bed and I am asleep. They came every morning, like that particular Sunday morning. They actually the first ones to wake me up. We used to take our tea from the dormitory. They brought me tea to the dormitory. They woke me up. We took tea. And very early in the morning, they took me to the power room. There was a little room reserved for Christian Union members just to go and seek the face of the Lord. So they took me there that very morning, where they meet and pray before the service begins. So we went in there it was about 1 hour. I don't know what to tell God for 1 hour. But I was with them.
For the whole hour.
For the whole hour. Then we came back prepared for the service. They made sure that I am ready for the service. When we went to the Sunday morning service, they reserved a seat for me right in front there, and made sure that I have everything, and I am comfortable in the Christian Union. And they were with me, not only on that Sunday, because I remember they also took some radical steps with me. Because on Monday I was leading prayers in the assembly.
Just like that.
The school was gathering on Monday for Monday assemblies, and I was appointed the person to lead the prayers that particular Monday. As if that is not enough, the following week on Wednesday, I was preaching in the midweek service.
Wow.
I was preaching. I still remember the sermon.
What did you preach about?
I talked about those who trust upon the Lord shall renew their strength.
Wow.
Yes, so that was the place. So a week later, they've given is something that you don't do with new believers. I don't know how they were doing it with me, but in between. Every morning, because I remember every evening they used to visit the prayer room for prayers. They'll come for me after preps and take me to the prayer room, and we'll be there for about 2 hours. We'd go and sleep. In the morning, we'll spend at least 30 minutes in the prayer room. They'll come for me from my bed all through, and we go to the prayer room before we report to our morning preps classes, and all through, and they were there.
Until you cleared school.
Until I cleared school. Really, by the time we are going to Form 4, really, because I remember even the same season, a month down the line, or 2 months thereabout, even when they were leaving, because most of our Christian Union officials were actually school prefects.
Yes.
So there was a treat for school prefects, and they were going for some trip somewhere. So they decided to leave the Christian Union in my hands. I was the chairperson, at least for the season where they were there, a new believer. So really, God prompted something in their hearts and positioned them that it has to work or work. There was no option B. for me in that particular journey.
And it worked.
It worked.
Okay.
And we praise God.
Amen. Before we catch up with the news at noon, allow me to ask you this. So from the day you gave your life to Christ,
yes,
and people walking with you and all that, as Wendo,
yes,
what change did you notice for you to say, this is the path I want and I'll stick to it?
Well, before, probably there were the things that happened physically.
Tell me.
Things that happened physically, because it is actually a direct translation that I could see that I'm actually from literally a kingdom of darkness. My desire for drugs, my passion for all those particular things are instantly over. I don't feel like in fact, I'm wondering what have I been doing all this long. The thirst is gone. I don't even know why people do such things. Suddenly something physical has really happened.
Yes.
And of course birthed in the spiritual.
Yes.
So then I immediately sensed that there's something extraordinary here. There is something that is really, really happening. Because again, it settled me even in because I was still a student.
Yes.
I suddenly settled. I could concentrate on my studies. Suddenly, I could. Even the relationship that I had with the teachers, the bad ones, are now working. They are okay.
Yes.
The people that I considered my enemies, I didn't like, we can now go along. My great friend, the principal, now we can get along. And there's a shift, and I could see and I could feel. The bitterness is no longer there. I'm just a happy person. Suddenly, a happy person. I'm wondering, who was that?
Okay. So you clear high school. Yes. You need to go and pursue a course. How did you perform? You performed well by your expectations?
I didn't perform again according to my expectations, but I was satisfied.
Yes.
I was satisfied with my grades, and I knew they would place me somewhere in a campus or in a particular place. And of course, I was settling and trying to begin that particular journey. By this time, I am struggling with two things. By the time I'm clearing high school, because I clear high school, and when I get out of high school, and when I was still in Form 3 even, I'm already affiliated to some ministry, student ministries, actually the KCF ministry. I'm already affiliated to them, and I'm already developing a passion to what they are doing.
Yes.
So I'm already thinking that, I don't mind spending my life along this line. But I'm also thinking that I need to get some good career.
Okay. So when we come back after the news, what did you want to do? Answer that first, then we'll catch up when we come back.
I wanted to do business, a business course. It was birthed in my days of darkness. I loved doing business. Business as a course in school.
Yes.
And I also loved selling things. We'd sell biscuits to students in school.
So when we come back, we'll find out from business to the pulpit, doing God's business, what's happening. Talk to us on 20933 and also Hope FM live on Facebook. Thank you for your company so much. Let's catch up with the news at noon. We'll be right back.